it the blind army, or is it Elisha's prayer? Is it where they ended up in the end, leaving the city that they didn't know they were there for? God is powerful and able to do whatever he wants, whenever he wants. He does not have any limitations by anything. But he decides to show his power through humans, a perfect being using broken creatures to show his unconceivable power. It's beautiful art, and in this art, we see God use a man named Elisha. Through the obedience of Elisha, we see the sovereignty, power, and mercy of God being played out. This is specifically seen through Elisha's prayers, actions, and the miraculous army of God that is with Elisha. Hopefully through this historical event, I will encourage you to take your prayer life more seriously and realize that there is more to life than what meets the eye. A quick question that I have for you is, why Elisha? Out of anybody that God could use, why Elisha specifically? Why not the servant that needed his eyes open later? Elisha came after Elijah, and Elijah did many great works. And as we see in 2 Kings 2:9, that Elisha was following Elijah, learning from him. And Elijah did many great works, but was going to be taken up to heaven, so he didn't die. And Elisha knew this day was coming. And the day of it, he asked Elijah, will you let me inherit a double portion of your spirit? Elijah said, I cannot give you that, but if you see me taken up in a fiery chariot up to heaven, then you will inherit this. Elisha does witness this, and he does inherit this double portion, or this double spirit that Elijah had. So now you take a normal guy, and you give him the double portion of the spirit from Elijah. And so we should expect a whole lot more from Elisha, being double the man who Elijah was. If you're not confused from switching back and forth with names, as we go through the story, we'll level it out for you. I want to divide the story into two sections. The first section is the knowledge of Elisha, what he came to know through the power of God. The second is the prayers that Elisha showed us. The first of Elisha's knowledge is his warnings to the king. Beware of passing such and such a place, for the Arams are camped out there. And the second, on top of that, it's time and again Elisha was warning the king so that he was on his guard in such places. We're not told specifically where these camps were laid out because it's not important. We're not told how many times exactly that the king was able to save himself from this, because I don't think it's important. We see the second section to Elisha's knowledge of coming from the king of Aram's officials. In verse 12, before verse 12, the king is very enraged because his camps are being found out. He's not able to capture the king, or his forces are not prevailing. And in verse 12, you see that his officials are telling him, but Elisha, the prophet who is in Israel, tells the king of Israel the very words you speak in your bedchamber. Now, who here is married? From this crowd, it's a few of us. But for those of you who are not married, just think of the things that you say or do in your bedroom. You know, what are the thoughts that go through your mind? Do you cast out your anger? Do you cast out your frustration? Do you sit there in anxiety? Or is that where you put your boasts and your proudness up on your wall as pictures of yourself or pictures of idols? Elisha knew very well who the king of Aram was. Very, very well. All this he knew because of the power of God. God was giving him this knowledge. God knows everything, and he was able to pass that on to Elisha. But something better than knowledge is wisdom, knowing what to do with the knowledge that is given to you. And we see perfectly that Elisha was able to live out a life worthy of giving this knowledge to. My second point of this is prayers. Now, the power of God really comes through with our prayers. John Wesley says, prayer is where the action is. In verse 16 and 17, we see Elisha comforting his servant. Don't be afraid, the prophet answered. Those who are with us are more than those who are with them. And Elisha prayed, O Lord, open his eyes that he may see. The Lord opened the servant's eyes, and he looked, and he saw the hills full of horses and chariots of fire around Elisha. Spiritual blindness. This is a problem. This is really serious. Many people today go on, punching their time clock in church, sitting in the pews, but they're not really searching. They don't really know what's going on around them. Light is a perfect example. There are so many different colors in just a simple light bulb that we don't see until it comes upon a color or a sheet. There's so many different things that we don't see in the colors, pigments, and how it moves around obstacles. How often do you think Elisha prayed? Once a day? 3 times a week, maybe? How about maybe 5 times a year? Did you know that Muslims also pray 5 times a day? Where do you think they got this from? They got this from the Jews and the early Christians, as this was a way to show their obedience to God. Many people through time have prayed for specific things. Prayer comes in many different forms, and the way you pray will tell what you actually believe about God. Do you only pray over your food, or do you actually talk to God? Do you believe that your prayers are going to do something? In my life right now, I constantly see myself opening with my prayers as, Lord, hold me, bring me a little bit closer. I don't know why my prayers always start like this, but when I go to prayer to God, that's immediately where my mind takes me. And I believe through this, that's where God is trying to take me. My freshman year here in college, I had the largest impact of prayer in my life. I began fasting and praying and seeking the Lord through Scripture. And this prayer came to finding my wife. I prayed, Lord, let me be content with being single for the rest of my life. Let me be patient enough to find her or deliver her into my hands as soon as you possibly can. And as this prayer went on, hours and hours, I began to feel this comfort come over me. As in, this is not something I should worry about anymore. I cast it beside me, and I moved on. And I didn't think about it again. 3 weeks later, I met my wife. Fasting is an amazing thing, and we all can do it. It is something that is in our hand, in the grasp of what we can do. How many of you know what neurotheology is? Up on the screen, I have a definition of what it is, and it's a lot of brain talk. Basically, for your brain when it comes in contact with God. Through prayer, through scripture reading, through meditation, through fasting. Basically, the way you pray becomes more and more foundational in your brain. It creates neural pathways, which means the more often you do it, the stronger these pathways become. And from these pathways, the more and longer you pray, the more likely you are to pray longer and more intentional. If you only pray a little bit, it's the more likelihood that you're not going to pray the next time. Elisha had no doubt in his mind when that the army was there when he prayed for the servant's eyes to be open. Elisha knew this army was there. God and I are always the majority. This is a quote from Pastor Mark Van Dalen. As I have already said, God is not limited by anything and can do anything. So when God is with me, there's nothing that can stop me. In verse 18, we see again Elisha's prayer. Why do you think the king of Aram sent such a strong force to get Elisha? Was it because he knew that Elisha was to be taken serious? How did this army feel the moment they became blind? It says they came down towards him, headed straight at him. They were outside the city, easy prey. You know, you have your strong horses, your chariots. You're just going to get two guys. What's the big deal? Not a thought in the world, you know? Maybe Jim and Joe's going to capture them, and I'll just stand back, let them do all the work. And then, boom, your eyesight is gone. Next thing you know, all you hear are the horses around you, the chariot going by you, everybody else stumbling and falling. Then you get this image of the capturer becoming the captured. They had no choice but to follow Elisha. So Elisha leads them from Dothan to Samaria. And we are told that they came by night to surround the city. So the lady pointer doesn't work on the screen, but I would. Go from Aram to Dothan is a very far travel. Now they travel by night, so their sleep is automatically interrupted. And who knows how many hours of sleep they had before that. And then traveling from Dothan to Samaria, my limited research has told me that it's about 12 miles. From my interpretation of this, you have a blind army who is now being led by a man. They have little sleep. Now that the sun is out and they're walking to Samaria, they're getting very tired, very thirsty. Who knows if they've actually eaten breakfast? And after carrying their swords, having all this armor on them, if they had it, they're extremely tired. And once they reach the city, Elisha prays, open the eyes of these people. How do you think this army felt now? Eyes open, they're exhausted. Now they're inside of the wall of an enemy. We see the king of Israel come and he says, "Shall I kill them, my father? Shall I kill them?" And from my interpretation of this, you kind of get this excitement, you know, as a child goes to his father on Christmas. Can I open a gift? Can I open a gift? You know, you get this excitement. He has his enemy in his hand. And Elisha says, "No. Give them food and water so we can send them back." They are exhausted. And I've already taken them somewhere that they were unfamiliar with for hours. 12 miles is not a quick distance when you're walking blind. A normal person walking at 10 miles per hour, it probably take maybe 2.5 hours. But now that they're blind, you can at least guesstimate that's 4 or more hours. And being blind, they're mentally exhausted, physically exhausted. What mercy we see through this. We have the compassion and forgiveness shown towards somebody who is within one's power to punish or harm them. We don't deserve mercy, neither did this army. They were enemies of the land they were in. In the rules of war, they were dead for trespassing, and let alone they were inside of a city that was not theirs, and they had no right being around. Death was already signed for them. Do you think God would have gotten glory from defeating them? Why not, kill them with the fiery army that was surrounding Elisha? Do you think God would have gotten glory through that? No. I think God got shown the most glory by leading them to Samaria and able to feed them, give them water, and showing them this mercy. We are all sinners, and we do not deserve anything but to come to the end of our life with death. But we get this beautiful imagery from this story. In Romans 5:12, therefore, just as sin entered the world through one man, and death through sin, and in this way death came to all people because all have sinned. In this imagery, we get an image of Jesus from Elisha. And he literally says in verse 19, "Follow me," as Jesus did to his disciples. And again, we get this image of physically, Elisha is leading these people to Samaria. What a perfect image. And then we get this feast. And you almost can see this as a communion dinner. They're now being forgiven. They're going to be left free. Along with this imagery of this feast comes Revelation 19:9, where John is now given word from this angel, write this, blessed are those who are invited to the wedding supper of the Lamb. And he added, these are the true words of God. Blessed are those who are at this feast. Blessed are those who are given this mercy and forgiveness because they've sought after God and followed Jesus. I've always been told that the Old Testament points towards Jesus. And in this story, it is very true to that. Jesus gives us a chance at mercy. All you have to do is accept it. Do you believe it? But where do you really turn when life hits its hardest moments? Everyone goes through crisis in their life. Through this story, we see the power of God, His sovereignty, and yet we also see His mercy. How is your prayer life today? Martin Luther said, to be a Christian without prayer is no more possible than to be alive without breathing. Are you listening for God? Are you letting yourself get quiet enough, long enough, to hear God speak to you, as Elisha did many, many times? There are two climax points in this story. Both of them deal with Elisha's prayer. The first one is when the servant has his eyes open and he sees not only there's an army coming toward him, but there's a bigger army over the hills. The second climax point is when this blinded army has been led into Samaria, and Elisha prays, open their eyes. So they're exhausted, their eyes are open, and they're surrounded in an enemy's territory. Are you confronted by obstacles and immediately turn to God? Are you the one being blinded and then led, just be captured and then do nothing but turn to God? Where do you turn when your time of trial comes? God can do a great work through all of you. All you have to do is be obedient to what He has and what He wants us to do. Pray, search the Scriptures, reach out to others, connect with other believers, worship them, believe and have faith. Allow yourself to get quiet enough, long enough, let Him speak to you and make His will clear in your life. So that when an army comes and this is your crisis, stand firm and you will know exactly what to do because you've allowed yourself to bring honor and glory to God. And now I'm going to pray. You reflect the prayer with me. Dear Lord, I just want to thank you for a wonderful day. Thank you for the mercy you give us. Thank you for the salvation we have in you. I pray you reach out to all of us and just speak to our hearts. Let us not walk away from this empty. Let us live for you, praying daily. Speak to us in the ways that we need. Allow us to rely on you when our time comes and we need it. In Jesus' name,
Can you tell us what your audience was?
it was a congregation of about 100, ranging from young to old.
Okay. A worship service?
Um,
Huh?
question statement.
Was it, it's like a worship service?
that question instead of like actually just thinking about it in our heads. So as you come up with those questions, the way you word them and then how you say them, think also about that, because it was great that you had all those questions, because it did really kind of get us thinking about what was going through, especially the ones that you kind of opened with after the scripture reading, talking about like where our focus was, where we focused on like who he was or what he had done or like those different things. Like those are really great questions, but half the time I was like, am I supposed to raise my hand here? Like, so just think about that that word choice, the 12 miles was what I found in my limited research. Like, you could have just totally left that out. It's about 12 miles through here, you just kept going. You know, it was a fact that caught me off guard. I was like, maybe he didn't look into this as much as he should have. So something to think about when you're mentioning research is you really don't need to tell them how long you spent,
Right.
researching for one reason or the other. Oh, we spent 60 hours. What is he doing? He shouldn't be spending that much time, like a short amount of time. So either way, but just something to think about. Your research was great, though.
He goes with illustrations, did he?
Four.
What were they?
The word pictures, like when he asked the question, what if our bedroom was not a secret place? Which I thought that was a pretty powerful question. He had quotes from John Wesley, Martin Luther, and Mark Luther.
You got 2 points for that one.
And the visuals, the pictures he had on the screen there.
Yep.
And then hands-on, to be called on someone to read scripture.
What about sources? I mean, which ones did he have?
Which one's for you? History.
What was the history one? What else?
Nature and science.
Who would you actually do it?
I have been
I
watching
slip a conspiracy.
I have been watching it closer now that we are in this class.
I heard another one I quoted in there too.
Letting yourself get quiet enough.
Yeah, I love that line.
You have said that. You said it like only once yesterday,
Yeah.
and then you also used it the week before.
Yeah.
And so
I wasn't here the week before.
You weren't?
No. Anyway, I heard it before.
It was very matters.
Anybody else? Word from that? Yeah.
I think you had some really great points during that people should fast and take breaks. But I would like to see a little more of how do you fast and how do you take it. And I know that's like it's a sermon in and of itself.
Yeah.
So maybe you have a sermon next week on that. But
I could have plugged it a little bit.
yeah, I think it's always good to explain. I know me personally, I struggle with understanding what they do.
My question is, the prayer that we get in the scripture from Elisha may have been a secondary prayer. What were the hours of prayer that he spent on his knees before he said, Lord, help him with what he sees and I see? How do you pray like Elisha? Good. Anybody else? Joe? You have something?
No.
How about the mechanics? Voice projection? This room's kind of like a chemistry lab.
Yeah, I was
Chapel will be.
kind of disappointed. I was really looking forward to projecting just over here. Should have done it in here. This is.
You could. Voice projection, anybody?
You did get to be that all the time.
Yeah. I unconsciously heard it. There's Nando's out there in the reading.
Your voice trailed off a little bit on some phrases. A little bit monotone at times. Did he speak in past tense or present tense when he told stories?
We're talking about this so often, we should all just instantly be thinking about it. Nope.
What do you think?
It was both.
You're going back.
I tried to hold one on like this is a historical event, but there were some.
Yeah. How about pace? Body option? I told you it was a little too short for you, I'm sorry. There's another one back, yeah, there's another one back there with Paul, actually. who am I in this story? And you address both sides of that. On the one hand, you're addressing those of us, be like Elisha, learn to pray, learn to trust God when things are tough. But on the other hand, we were the enemies, the Aram, the soldiers of Aram. We were led into captivity and we should have been slaughtered, and yet he laid a table before us. So that's why I asked you folks, what's the thesis? Because you address both sides of that, which is fine. I think it would help for you to even articulate that more. Who are you in this story? How are you like Elisha? How are you like the enemies of God? And truthfully, who are we in the story? We're the enemies of God. And you did a brilliant job tying that into, how in the world are we invited then to the Lord's table? So I thought your exposition was really the strongest part of your sermon. You really unpacked that story well, and then you worked on it. You got all the illustrations. I think the organization and flow, that gets better over time. You can always improve on that. Your delivery mechanics were good. I think where you really got hurt was the opening.
Yeah, looking down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, that opening's key, because that's when I'm going to do this. So, anyway, good job. For the first time, I think we should take an offering and give it to
If you look from the outline I sent you for E, it's totally different than this one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Isn't that good or bad?
Good. But I did, in my first outline, I did have the who are you, and these are the people.
Yeah.
But I felt like I didn't know enough about everybody in the story to
Yeah.
keep that.
Yeah. Great story. All right, we got a stretch for a minute. Ron, are you next?
Yes.
You have some media you want to find out?
I just need to, I had a PowerPoint for just the. I don't know if this is yet. You got all the comments.
Oh, yay! Thank you.
What was our time?
140?
And that included the prayer?
No.
No, it did not include the prayer, it included the scripture reading.
22:20 would be including the prayer.
Not including the scripture reading, it was 19. So you're okay.
Okay.
I wouldn't want you to read 20 minutes scripture and preach for 2 minutes. So Ron, do you need media?
Yes, I got a laptop. Or do you want me to?
You'll flash drive?
And it was still